Okay. Good evening and welcome to Mo Knows, featuring me, Monica No Justice. Okay. I intend to go to sleep. So, and I do not believe I will be here in the morning because mommy duties call. So, hold on a second. Let me save this. Hey, mommy. How are you today? Wow. I'm mad at myself because I kept saying I gotta count 20 days. Yeah, because it's notice of appeal. So yeah, notice of appeal is normally filed first to let them know it is New York City, to let them know that that's what you plan on doing. But just because someone files a notice of appeal does not mean. So all right, let's just get into it. A notice of appeal just advises the court that you intend on filing an appeal, that you have an intent on filing an appeal, and it kind of extends the deadline to file an appeal. So you're telling them within a period of time between 20 days from the guilty verdict, 20 to 30 days between that, someone files a notice of appeal, and then it extends it out. Generally, it's about anywhere from 60 to 90 days. So we're going to check Texas and see. It could be anywhere from 30 to that before you file the actual appeal. I was just asking myself the other day, I was like, damn, what day did she get the guilty verdict? Was it the 8th or the 10th? Um, I forgot. So it was the third. So this means that they did it in 20 days. So it's probably going to be it was to it was to initiate the extension. So we're going to count out 90 days from here. That's typically what it is. Hey, yes, my evening is gone. But I did find parking in front of the building. I was so happy. I was like, oh, Laffy Taffy, oh, Laffy Taffy, oh, Laffy Taffy, when I got my bike. Hey, what do you mean, mods? Ain't no mods over here, but bot. Folks, I do not do Facebook. Hold on a second, somebody tell me something. This is some white woman. I'm listening to some white woman. I think it's at Arlington, Texas, and a public speak. And oh, Jesus. Holy cow. The woman said it's white privilege that she's alive. She had the same kind of similar situation with the police. This is crazy. So she's like, if I was a black woman now, I'm worried about what if they shot me. So, all right. Yeah. Um, I guess they were having a hearing determining, having a hearing about having some oversight committee. What they need to do is look at their policies and rewrite their policies because their policies are antiquated. But she tells the white woman just told a story about being in her house, the dog wanting to go out, setting the dog outside, and she saw two flashlights out there. And she yelled out, "Who is it?" And they said they were the police. Someone had called a complaint, a noise complaint for her dog, and she said, "Wonder if her dog had got shot." I was on the mix. There is another story out here brewing, brew ha 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 ha, about a white woman, homeless woman with her dog, who was murdered, by the police on a wellness check. So they're pulling out all the wellness check calls and talking about it. So I don't know if y'all would be interested in her story. Uh, the dog lunged at the officer, according to him, but you do see the dog running um, because the officer was approaching where they were at. Anyway, the officer, who was only an officer for like 3 months, I think he became an officer in April, and this incident took place in July. I believe it's this year. He shot at the dog. He grazed him with one bullet. I think whatever it was, the dog is still alive and the owner is dead. And it was some white woman that was known to everybody to have been sleeping out there homeless, whose father is supposed to be somebody of importance in the police department, or somebody of importance in law enforcement. And I listened to the story and I was like, this was me. And I know when I start making all those faces, it's just bad news from there on out. So I'll probably look a little bit more into that. I had a whole debate with my daughter this morning about the conversation. Hey, Nanya, the conversation that we had this morning about transgender and me not being as politically correct as I should be. And I have to explain to folks. So, folks, I am not against anybody's right to do anything. Do what you want. Be who you want. Hey, Boogie, say what you want, But what I'm not going to do is I am not going to dumb down how I feel about something because people want to tell you you're being biased, prejudiced, etc. about their needs. Listen, You're fighting and advocating to get some shit on the board that accommodates you. I ain't got no problem with it. Whatever floats your boat. Where there's a problem is where your shit interferes with my shit. That's it. And where they cross, there needs to be a discussion about it. And just because I believe, and I'm sure there are more people than I who believe that when you are creating your own sex to be similar to that of a woman, that you need to name it accordingly. Just like if you are a woman creating your own sex similar to that of a man, you need to name it accordingly. Call everything what it is, but do not be upset with me because I don't want to accept that because you transition into something that it is the same as being that in the first place. And that's it. So and that's just my bottom line. So I'm saying that when you transition, you are not fully, when we talk about rights, right? When we talk about uh equal rights and we talk about full protection and we use terminology like that, we have a right, we also have a right to be to stand firm as a woman. And because you transition into a woman, in my opinion, does not make you a woman. It makes you woman like. And you need to find a name for that. While you're inventing yourself and they're doing all this strategic surgery and stuff like that, give it a name and call the person by that name. And that is the sex you created. But what is created when you're given by birth, that's it. Even people that are born with both body parts, right? They got a name for it. We understand what that is. Like, there's a name for it. So don't try to go changing stuff and then want to make a name, fit into the category and say you're a woman. I beg to differ. Now, that's just my opinion. I'm not infringing on your right to do it. I'm infringing on your right to say it's the same. It's not separate. It's not equal. It's not equal. It could never amount to being the same as a woman. And we should not have accepted that. We should have enforced that it be given its own rightful name. And I'm standing on it. That's my opinion. I'm not bashing anybody. It's just my opinion. And if I had the powers, yeah, I know it's got a name. I don't want to be like, I don't want to give it more limelight than what it needs to have. But I'm just saying, everything has, when it's unique and a difference, it has a name. Call it what it is. Find out what it is and call it what it is. But do not call it woman when it has been converted to something. It's similar to woman and it needs to have a name. And I'm not going to sit up here and try to make up no names because I'm not trying to be funny about it. Even though in my head I've got a bunch of them in my head, but I'm just going to leave that like that. And that's me being respectful. Not sure about the part of the topic you are on. Okay, this morning I was speaking about the Supreme Court decision. No, the Supreme Court heard arguments for some issues that I believe is affecting the transgender. No, it's not, because if it was, if it was, if it was just being recognized as transgender, Then they would make transgender bathrooms. Then they would make transgender things. Then they would have in sports, they would have the transgender division, right? You know, like they have the women's division and the men's division. They would have a separation and they would call it transgender. So it's not being acknowledged like that. That is probably the procedure. That's probably what's happening, but they are considering themselves man or woman. No, they're not. That's what the Supreme Court is looking at now. They're looking at making the transgender group a protected group. They have before them a case to extend the civil rights to be inclusive of the transgender community. Yeah, that's what we was discussing this morning. So in that conversation this morning, I said that when you transition either way into being from a female to a male or a male to a female, it should have its own name so that it's identified, so that you don't, so that as a woman, I don't feel discriminated against. And one of the arguments that came up in this hearing, in the it was, they revisit the discussion about women feeling comfortable being in the bathroom with a man that transitions into woman before they completely transition. Like, would you feel odd? So my daughter and I was discussing it this morning. She was like, well, some 10-year-olds be inside the women's bathroom with their mothers because they travel with their parents and stuff. But it's always creepy seeing a big ass boy inside the bathroom with the girls. And I said, I guess I would feel more. For me as a woman, I would probably feel a little bit funny or awkward in the bathroom with a transgender her. But I have been in that situation one time, and I was just like, "Excuse you," and then that's when I realized the situation. And I was like, "Oh, Monica, you're just so insensitive." But it was awkward. It was awkward, and vice versa. I would feel that maybe some of the female, like I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. I just believe that at this point in time, everybody should have, like my second favorite store in the world has. They have a bathroom that has no sex on it. It could be either one, and it's got a fitting room in the inside. A baby changing room in the inside. And they are so nice and cute bathrooms. And I always, if I'm in that mall, that's the mall with the Louis Vuitton store. I gotta take y'all to the Louis Vuitton store. Um, Maybe I'll take y'all to the Louis Vuitton store in a helicopter because we went to Gucci in the U-Haul, and it was like, oh, she went to Gucci in the U-Haul. Anywho, that was the conversation this morning. I definitely used to take my son in the public restroom up to the age of 8. No lie, sorry, I don't trust people. I can't remember back then. I got 20 something year olds. What I did when I went to the pub, when I was in the public with them. But I'm sure I kept my son with me. Or I'm sure we're ghetto. So I'm sure if he went into the men's bathroom, I was all up in the space. Let's just put it like this. You wouldn't have one. Well, shit. I don't know enough about all this. I'll take it one day at a time, I guess. But I definitely don't let any kids, teenagers go into public restrooms alone. Yeah, it's at a point where you have to be very cautious. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it right now. Next. The little girl that was killed. Uh-oh. Oh, I don't know nothing about that. Oh, really? Well, I like the I guess that's what they calling them. I don't know. I thought they was just a unisex bathroom with the changing table in it because man, I did do an article here of a man who sued because he wanted to have the men's bathroom have a changing thing in it because men do travel um with their kids these days and they have to be able to go to the bathroom with them. But I'm wondering if people would feel all funny if they saw the man going in the bathroom with his daughter. So I don't know. I don't know. Hello, Darius. Of course it was. Okay, let's just get into. I'll be beating around the bush, right? Ease on down the road. All right. So, is there a deadline to file an appeal of a judgment? Now, how do I know if this is mandamus? Oh, this gets good. Somebody asked me an appeal question yesterday. All right. As a general rule, the Texas rules of appellate procedure require a notice of appeal to be filed within 30 days of final judgment, signed by the judge. However, that time is extended to 90 days of the judge signing the final judgment if a timely motion for a new trial is filed. The timely motion for new trial would have to be filed within 30 days of the judge signing the judgment. So that's why I say everything goes back and forth. You're gonna hear like 15 days or 30 days or 20 days. You'll hear numbers like that because each party is then going to be given enough time to respond back to whatever it is, and that's how we go back and forth and get to like 8 months, 8 years later, because each person had 30 days or 60 days to answer their part and then respond, and it just goes on and on and on. Of course, there are some exceptions to this rule with and an extension of time to file an appeal is possible, but generally that will only be a 15-day extension. So they got shit with them. So we're going to set our clocks mentally and physically to say that we are October 22nd, November, December. So sometime by January 22nd, we should be reading Amber Guyger's, and I'm not going to say 22nd because we got 30 days and we got 31 days and 31 days. So I'm going to say by January 20th, we should be seeing the appeal. Now, in the coming days, I'm going to make a chart and we are going to build out our chart, right? We're going to build out our chart, possible grounds for appeal. Because I want to see what I was thinking as an appeal or what you remember from the case that we might think they might appeal on, and start to graph that on a chart to see what actually happens. Uh, I'm, I'm so sorry. Does it list the reasons for appeal? No. At this point, good evening on Black Truth. At this point, what they're doing is they're filing their notice of intent to appeal because you want to preserve your client's right to appeal. You don't want them to lose anything because they failed to tell the court that this is what they're thinking. Well, at this point in time, I mean, if we're going to look at it, and welcome YouTube Court TV cousin chit chat. If we're going to look at it um, from a holistic viewpoint, right? Looking at all the information, it would just be good of us to, at least I believe, to look at it and say, hey, what could she file an appeal on? And start the discussions going. And the reason why we start the discussions going here is to soften the blow in the community. Because I think a lot of times folks are upset because they didn't anticipate something to come. Like right now, everyone is not upset that that an appeal is bound, right? So they're not unless anybody tells me differently. But most people are not upset that an appeal was evident. So at this point, we need to start to begin the conversations on what did we hear they might appeal on so that we are better prepared for the discussions moving forward. Me too. I looked for that live. What happened? What happened? Yeah, me too. Me four. I said this morning, I said, as soon as I got to work and I sat down, oh, I did go to take care of some business. So I was running a little bit late to work this morning. But as soon as I sat at my desk, I was like, so then I said, you know what? Somebody said it never takes place. But it's okay because to be quite honest, between y'all, you and me, right? I was sitting up here saying, I don't want to argue some of those things. I don't want to argue about food, clothing, and shelter for days. Not because I don't believe they're important. Not because I don't believe they're important topics, because I believe there's so much history that needs to be discovered and foundation that needs to be set so that people can have a meaningful dialogue. See, when someone starts asking you, what is the national this and what is the level of this, and you really don't know, you're at a disadvantage to engage in that conversation. Because they may have a fact that you don't know, and then they'll be beating you against the head about it. Well, if you knew this, it just makes the conversation. You when did I do some great moderate? You thought it was great moderating? I thought it was horrible. I thought if you listen back to it, I thought it was horrible. I was waiting. Me five. That's all right. We'll have somebody write him and tell him that. But but it would be good. I liked the discussion that morning. It was organic, and it just grew out of a whole bunch of nothing. Something grew out of the out of the out of the damn events of the day. But yeah, it's crazy. It's hard to it's hard to move forward from anything. For those of you who don't know, and I don't know why you don't know, or you're gonna pretend like you don't know. Yeah, it was it was a trying morning. You know what's even worse about some of these situations that come up on the YouTube? When you don't know all the stuff yourself. Like you have a piece of it, but you miss some of it. So then you're like, holy shit, I really can't comment. So I just need to like fall back and really listen and see what you could piece together. And all you can discern from it is messy people will just always be messy. No, roses grew, weeds grew, and that's it. The worst takeaway from that whole event, that's why I'm glad it ended the way it ended. Um, why the live ended on a good note with a solid number of folks inside the room. Because it was kind of giving some people a happy moment that they were successful in dividing. And I don't really see it as a successful stride for them, but I see it as a successful attempt. Um, and they've been wanting that since they was stuck in their own home state with nobody to visit them. You know how miserable it must be to be in your own freaking state and you ain't got no friends. But I know one thing that you could really learn from that conversation, and especially if you're somebody having a conversation with someone else, right? You gotta really ask yourself when they start raising questions with you when you're on the phone, what is the purpose of this call? And I don't understand why people, in talking to some of these people these days, they're not turning around saying, yo, are you recording me? Because I don't authorize you to record me. And just like, because it's so intrusive to one day just be sitting back, you chilling, and then you just hear your conversation being played out. Now, I've had that happen to me. And to be quite honest, I still never understood what I said because I was listening like really hard to figure out, but it got remixed at some point. Well, that was true too. That was a good takeaway. But I don't think I'm gonna just go back to my focal point. There are real support groups. So if you want to consider yourself part of being a group or part of being part of communities, there are some real community bonds that are here that I think are exclusive to the K unit group, that they have real strong bonds, right? And you see that at times come through. And you see other people just jealous because they don't have the same bond. They didn't make the same bonds. They're on the outside looking in. And then you just have miserable folks that just will do anything for entertainment. And that's what they do. Is this really, these are not people that um we really work with. When you I don't know. I've always felt my way about this stuff. Hey, wonderful. I've always felt a certain kind of way about these particular characters. Only because initially I didn't understand where the assault came from because I felt assaulted. Um, I felt like I was being victimized and I didn't even know what the hell I did. And then like to watch them in action, but then to watch everybody else's reaction. I watch people go from loving me to hating me just on what they heard, not on what they saw, not on what they could confirm. So that's when I just got to this point in this stuff, and I was just like, I'll just watch and see how this stuff blows out. And that's why you have so many trolls now, right? It's because people want to still rock with you, but they can't rock with you under their true identity. And see, I'm not going to do that. Today I went under one of those videos, whatever video rocked out yesterday, and I had to write underneath somebody else's comments because I was like, yo, like I'd be surprised when I see the people who've changed or flipped over. So I don't want to be like the person that's like talking about somebody behind their back. I went right up in their shit. Woo, gang member. No. I went right up in there underneath somebody's comment and I said, interesting. Cause they was like, shout out to Big S and Kid Dynamite. I'm like, all I could say is interesting. That's it. I was listening to somebody else's live, Myron, and I hear shout out. I'm sitting up here and I'm like, interesting. Oh, Ivame, how are you doing with the book? Hey, who's gonna check me, boo? So I just had to be like, so that's my word right now. When I seeing this stuff, I'm just like, interesting. So if the only takeaway that I still walk away from yesterday's conversation is I just hope that I don't have to run around and say, interesting over in the other worlds. So I just, I would be so devastated. Like I would be so devastated. I'm not even gonna lie. But I can tell you for certain who is never, and I can do a never ever, you will never ever catch me making amends. There was too much carnage for me to make amends. And that's it. And there was too much, there was too much destruction, even down to taking on Alethea's situation, for someone to say to me like, well, this was a vendetta against these people. No, it wasn't a vendetta against these people. These people gave us a narrative of somebody else's pain. And if you can't see that, forget what happened, who was in Arizona, who flew to where, whatever. If you couldn't see that somebody got themselves in a situation that made them a victim of fraud, right? For however good or bad, and the person found themselves in that situation, and then as a friend of that person, you go and tell the whole fucking world about it, that's like the craziest moment. Even if I was to say, okay, someone baited you into that because they said you did something and you was defending yourself, you still wouldn't have carried it to the levels that you carried it. Because at some point you look at your friend and say, damn, I was going to be in your wedding. I see your pain. And that's about it. No one listens to me. Even when I try to give good advice and be like, don't do this, don't do that. No one listens to me. So I can only, they listen to me after the fact. They listen to me after they're hurt. But if I say something as a precursor to something, people do whatever they want to do anyway. I always cringe when I hear my name. Girl, your name was all up in here last night. I just didn't let the messages go. A person was like, you got her in your room. She's bringing down your channel. I was like, oh, brother. That's all I can say. Like, how can a viewer who's writing in the chat bring down the channel? Opposed to what anybody else is doing around here. So it's just welcome to the nightmare on K Unit. And that's it. That's about it. It was, those are some tough times. But at the end of the day, I think there are some good people here that have good groups, good communities that they've built up, and it will stand the test of time. And that's about it. Anyway, I just wanted to come back out here and say that we got some appeal work to do, and I really want to take on the perspective of let's examine what this appeal may look like to soften the conversations as they come out. Um, I think it will help. Um, there was something in the Tatiana case I wanted to say something about her. Um, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna look at the white woman in the dog shooting, not because I want to cover those type of cases. And I don't and anybody that wants to say I got a bias or whatever, or is upset about me on this white scale, I'm gonna say this. When I walk outside my home, I ever since Sandra Bland, I am scared for myself. You understand? I'm scared for myself. Whenever I speak to a police officer, I'm scared for myself. And I never felt that way. I've always been fear for my son, fear for male kids I know. You understand? But I was never in fear for myself until Sandra Bland. And once that happened, it changed the whole landscape for me. So forgive me if I don't want to spend my time focused on the misfortunate deaths of you when we have the continuous deaths of us. I want to explore that and see if there's a way to change those outcomes, and if I can help contribute to that change, opposed to sitting around here and focusing on people that have more resources and privilege that will rectify their wrong. They always rectify their wrongs in the form of compensation, wherein we're only left with carnage. We're left with vacancies and holes in our hearts and years of uh, residual damage, not even collateral damage, just residual damage, because it just keeps going on and on and on, with no end in sight. And then it becomes generational. You understand? And I find it pointless. So if I could work with, when we talk about justice reform, if I could work with how to reconstruct the penalty phase after time served, because you cannot keep having it both ways, in my opinion. You cannot have someone go to jail and you fail to rehabilitate them, but they give you all that time in years, and then we turn around and let them free, and then they still are living in a free prison where they can't really do anything legal because you prohibited them. They've been prohibited and banished for life. So taking time from them was not enough. And I think that that is poor. Once people come out of prison, I feel like it's a clean slate. It's day one. And they should be given a day one opportunity. From the day they walk out of there, they should be given a clean day one, as if life was starting all over again for them. And I don't see it. I knew she would appeal. This is a slap in the face for the family. That's why the hug made me sick to my stomach. Well, she did not take responsibility for her actions. She will be out on appeal. Okay, let's just examine one by one, if you don't mind. And these are based on my opinions of what you just said. Um, I believe we all knew that she would appeal because even though it wasn't an automatic step as if she had gotten capital punishment, but it was inevitable that she would do it. It's one of the it's a reasonable expectation out of the thing. I don't believe it's a slap in the face for the family. I truly don't have any compassion for the family in this situation. After what I saw, the huggies and the I forgive yous and the everything else, I'm over the family. I'm completely over it. Whatever they get, they get. I'm not interested because yes, you have a right to self-preservation for your own, but there's a bigger cause sometimes. There's tomorrow for the people left behind. So they don't see that. And I listened to the mother's speech again, and she said something very cunning. She said, I'm gonna go back to St. Lucia. Y'all gonna be left here with this shit. And she's 100% right. And even though I did see strength in her speech, she gave me my own strength too. And that's not to feel sympathy for them any longer. Because they're going to go home and they don't have to worry about the shit that we're left with. So I don't, and that's just respectfully. And I just wanted everybody to understand that part about me. And the hugging and all the other stuff, it was anomalies to me. I don't even have any. I'm just like, how better to end a shit show than with a shit show? I mean, how better? And I don't believe that she took any responsibility or felt any guilt whatsoever. But we'll see what comes out of the appeal. And damn, I still haven't looked up who these attorneys are. Where did she get these attorneys from? Hold on, I gotta make sure. I've been wanting to research her attorneys. Because one thing we know, they're not an affluent family, so they ain't kicking out all this money with the sister working as a the sister was, I don't know, what was the sister doing? I don't know. That's why I said I have to look it up. But as it stands right now, there will be no bail on appeal. So she will not be out on appeal, or as it stands right now. That's the only thing that we can say at this point. She'll have to appeal from in jail. Um, and that's it. And that attorney Lee Merritt did give us some indication, at least one, of what he thought they could appeal on. Or he didn't say that they could appeal on it. I don't remember his interview quite exactly, but it was on the show with the black lady, Karen something show. But he just said that we needed to keep judges like Kemp on because she made tough decisions in the case. So, and he pointed to one of the tough decisions. So I'm sure, it was one of the decisions was not to allow the state trooper to serve as an expert witness. And they did some funny shit in this case too, because the prosecutor put forth some stuff and put forth this witness, and then the defendant's attorney tried to turn him from being the state's witness to turn him into being their witness. Judge Kemp on the Roland interview, she gave us a look at something that probably is an appealable action as well. And that was that there was some kind of agreement to include the ability for her to get less time or time slashed in the sentencing phase. That because it was on agreement between the prosecutor and the defense, that she had to let it go. But it probably, she made it appear as if it wouldn't have been something that is usual that happened. A lot of people came out to protest for the family to get justice. They disrespected the people of Dallas that risked it. They honestly, this is why I do not protest. This is why. And I explained the other day my interaction with Al Sharpton, or how I got in how I was in a program here in New York when I was a young adult, with just maybe like a baby. My daughter was probably several months old at the time. She wasn't even walking. She crawled around everywhere we went. And I was in a program that was going to be defunded. And they hooked up the program director and company hooked up with Al Sharpton, came in, spoke to us, the students, and was like, I'm going to need y'all to protest because they're cutting funds in these programs. And wanted us to go protesting across the Brooklyn Bridge, down the City Hall. And I was like, oh, hell no, Mo will not be doing that. I got a small child, and if I get arrested, who the hell is going to take care of my child while I done ran around here? So, of course, the idea was to save the program for the next class coming in. So what I did was I wrote a letter to the commissioner and asked for a meeting to speak to him to discuss what was happening, why I thought the program was a viable program, and why we thought it was a viable program. And these people was very mad at me because I wouldn't go protest. But I don't see the value added for me in some of these instances where I could end up losing my life over these things, when other people depend on me. But it doesn't mean I'm against protesting. I'm just want to utilize our ability to fight back in a stronger way. And sometimes that has to do with having the right people in place. You understand? And that's why I keep pointing to the botched robbery, botched, what is it? Botched drug raid. How the white folk, they didn't go out and protest. They went out, retained them an attorney. The attorney retained himself. You hired a forensic team to go in there and search that house and come up with different findings, or second look over what Houston PD did. And that may not be the only approach, but I think it's a solid approach. And at some point in time, we're going to have to dig in our resources of a wealthy community that we are. We have talented, educated folks that do these same jobs. We got retired forensics people. We got the same amount of talent within our community. We're going to have to start putting together some kind of way to devote some hours of our talent to help out when these situations come up, so that we can independently investigate and come to our own conclusions. We're going to have to exercise our own, we're going to have to build our own nation from within the nation we live in. Honestly, we're going to have to find a way to do it if our survival means anything. Is her police union? We're going to look into the police union. We're going to look into who's paying for this. Anyway, that's about it. We'll come back and see. We'll be exploring her again within the next, from now until January 20th. We know that we will see what her appeal is about. And from there, we'll see what the next steps are. I hear folks saying a lot about this case is making precedent, it's setting precedent. It's the case that most people will follow. And I'm just going to remind folks she was off duty at the time. So, although she was an officer who should have been better trained, and what we've now seeing as a outliner is that they don't train their officers properly. But anyway, I'm going to bed. I will see you guys. It's tomorrow West Coast Wednesdays. I'll see y'all West Coast time. West Coast Wednesday time. Sometime in the evening tomorrow. This is Mo. Thank you for coming over. And I got to go. Let me do this because I be missing out saying this to folks. All right.